The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.
The Government of Ontario presented a budget today that said yes, yes, and yes to big spending, nearly $200 billion worth. Is it the plan that will get Ontario voters to say yes as well? Tonight, we've got the Minister of Finance, the opposition critics, and some perspective from Queen's Park watchers. It's Thursday, April 28th, and that's all ahead. On the agenda, our Budget Day edition. Well, it's a bit of a strange budget day in Ontario, inasmuch as we know this nearly $200 billion financial document will not be passed by the current Ontario legislature. The budget was introduced today, but with the election campaign to be called next week, none of what was announced today will happen, unless the current government is re-elected. Nevertheless, the Tories took 268 pages to re-announce a lot of things. Here's a brief summary of some of the new things found in today's fiscal update. So Sheldon, if you would, let's bring these graphics up. Here are some of the big ticket spending items for healthcare, north of $75 billion. In education, north of $32 billion. Even interest on the debt is a big ticket item, $13.5 billion. Add it all up, all the program spending comes to $185.2 billion. And if you throw in the debt as well, almost $200 billion in the next fiscal year. The government intends to increase spending by a lot, on average 5.1% per year to the year 2024-25, and particularly in healthcare, where spending will go up 5.8% on average per year. They also intend to build a lot. The capital budget's got nearly $160 billion in there over 10 years for things such as public transit, $61.6 billion for that, $25 billion for highway construction. And of course, the government's going to spend a lot more than it's going to take in revenue, and that means lots of deficits. The anticipated deficit for the fiscal year we're just leaving, 2021-2022, was thought to be $33.1 billion, but the economy has come roaring back, and so the actual deficit is only $13.5 billion. But here comes the additional spending. And for the fiscal year we're now in, the deficit's going to balloon back up to nearly $20 billion before coming down a bit the following year to $12.3 billion. No balanced budgets forecasted in this budget until the year 2028. The debt-to-GDP ratio is a way of measuring the strength of the economy, and in this fiscal year, the government anticipates that number to be 41.4%. But again, to suggest all the spending that's going on, even 2 years down the road, that number's only going to drop by 1/10 of a percentage point. Where's all the money going? Well, you've heard a lot about it already in government announcements over the last month, but here's some new spending. There's a new Ontario Seniors Care at Home tax credit. That's $110 million, supporting 200,000 low to moderate income senior families, which would put on average $550 in their pockets. There's $764 million over 2 years to provide Ontario's nurses a bit of an incentive to stay on the job. It's a lump sum retention incentive of up to $5,000 per person. There's up to $1 billion over 3 years to expand home care, getting seniors and patients out of hospitals and long-term care homes and staying at home. We know how important connection is these days. So for high-speed internet, there's $4 billion in the budget to ensure access to every community by the end of 2025. This government is really opening the purse for the auto sector. They're giving nearly $700 million in subsidies to Ford, General Motors, and Honda. And these auto companies, plus Toyota, plus Stellantis, have invested $11 billion in return to set up hybrid or electric car and battery manufacturing technology plants in the province. Let's go north. Northern Ontario, on the transportation file, there's $109 million in here to refurbish 56 GO Transit rail coaches. That's at the Ontario Northland Remanufacturing and Repair Centre in North Bay. There's $171 million to refurbish 94 GO Transit rail coaches, supporting 200 manufacturing jobs at the Alstom plant in Thunder Bay. How about our vices? Yes, we do love our vices because they do bring revenue in. In booze, for the LCBO, $2.6 billion to the Treasury. In gaming, that's casinos, that's lottery tickets, $2.3 billion to the Treasury. And yes, now that marijuana is legal, to the Tokes, the Ontario Cannabis Store, $180 million in revenue. And in every budget, the Tories have come to put something what they call shiny in the window, something we're going to talk about, but which has very few details. And in this budget, it's the creation of a new provincial park. The first one, they say, in 40 years. Where it will be, how much it will cost, that is still to be determined. While he said in his speech this afternoon that the budget is Premier Ford's vision, it is, of course, the Minister of Finance, Peter Bethlenfalvy, who's responsible for putting it together and presenting it to the province. He is the Progressive Conservative MPP for Pickering-Uxbridge, and Peter Bethlenfalvy joins us now from his office across the road from the Ontario Legislature in the Frost Block. And Treasurer, it's always good to have you on Budget Day on our program. How are you managing today?
Feeling terrific, and it's always great to be with you, Steve.
Thank you for saying so. Now, I want to start with a good high, tight fastball, since I know you're a baseball fan. You're a former Bay Street guy, so I'm going to ask you about the numbers. I know you say that you can balance the budget 2 years earlier than was forecast in the last budget. However, the Independent Financial Accountability Officer said a week ago that the books were in such good shape you could balance the books by next year if you didn't go on an orgiastic spending spree. Those might be my words as opposed to his, actually. But it looks like you're not planning to balance the books until 2028. And my question is, why so late?
Well, Steve, you're absolutely right. We're going to balance the budget 2 years faster than we thought a year ago. We've made tremendous progress on bringing the debt to GDP down. The deficit has been coming down. But, you know, after 2 years of the pandemic, we have to rebuild Ontario's economy. You know, we've lost in the previous 15 years under the Liberals, we lost all those auto manufacturing jobs. We need to bring those good jobs back, and we're doing exactly that. We're making investments to get bigger paychecks for the people of Ontario. You know, we're building infrastructure. It's a time to build highways, public transit, hospitals, housing, high-speed internet, because things like highways, people don't want to spend time in gridlock, and that costs us $11 billion a year in lost productivity in the greater Golden Horseshoe. You know, we're providing skilled training and retraining and reskilling for our workers and so that they can have the skills to succeed. And of course, we're helping with costs to bring costs down so that the hardworking people of Ontario can have a little extra money in their pockets. And finally, you know, the pandemic really laid bare the previous Liberals' lack of investment and foresight in building hospitals and long-term care. Well, we're building those hospitals. We're building the beds. We're hiring the nurses and the personal support workers, and we're investing in home care. So these are the types of things that I think are very prudent, and we've done it in a fiscally responsible way.
Well, again, as a former Bay Street guy, you would know that the debt-to-GDP ratio is an important indication of the health of the economy, and you say you're bringing it down. It's going in this fiscal year from 41.4% to 2 years down the road to 41.3%. Now, if you were Peter Bethlenfalvy still working on Bay Street at DBRS, the Dominion Bond Rating Service, how unimpressed would you be with that kind of fiscal management?
Well, Peter Bethlenfalvy would be very impressed with the budget, and very impressed with the plan to rebuild the economy. You know, we've got to grow the economy. We've got to grow the pie in this province. And, you know, we've got some of the best workers, the best education system, Steve. We've had to make more investments in the healthcare because the pandemic exposed that the lack of investment over the previous 15 years exposed us to this pandemic. So Premier Ford has made a commitment through the pandemic not to spare any expense. I made that commitment. We're going to continue to make the commitment to spend on infrastructure. We're going to build things. We're going to get things done because that's good for jobs. It's good for bigger paychecks. It's good for people's standard of living, and that's why I think we found the right balance here.
Let me read you a comment that Randall Denley has written. He, the newspaper columnist and a former Conservative candidate, I would add, who said about Premier Ford, he writes this: is he a Liberal kind of guy who knows that people like to be bought with their own money, or is he a leader whose government called eliminating the deficit, quote, a moral imperative back in 2019? Which is it, Treasurer?
We had a pandemic, Steve. You know, this really exposed the lack of investment. We had already started building hospitals, and, you know, we started building subways. I made the commitment a year ago to invest in broadband so we could connect the rest of Ontario, 700,000 households that weren't connected or underserved. You know, we need more schools. You know, and I look at Scarborough as one example that I point out. You know, people were talking about building a subway to connect the 700,000 people out in Scarborough in the 1980s. You know, that we need to get cars off the road. We need to build transit. We've got the shovel in the ground building that Scarborough subway. You know, Premier Ford and the team that we've got and the mandate that we're asking for from the people of Ontario will allow us to build this economy, to build that infrastructure, to help people with costs, help workers, and like I said, stay open. So I feel very, very confident and good about our plan, and we're going to get it done.
I'm going to. Yeah, I noticed you used that expression numerous times in your speech today. Get it done, because I know it's the Tory campaign tagline. So I'm sure the folks behind the scenes are very happy that you're using the tagline. But having said that, I want to go again on this issue about how prudent your spending is this year. And that is, despite a rip-roaring economy, the deficit is going to go from $13.5 billion this year to $19.9 billion next year. And every treasurer I've ever spoken to wants those numbers to be going down in a particular direction, and yet your deficit numbers in a good economy are going up significantly. How exactly is that prudent?
We just went through a 2-year, once in a 100-year pandemic, Steve, and so we had to increase the spending to protect people's lives and their health. I do that all over again, but I think, you know, on Bay Street, you know, what we really don't like on Bay Street is a lot of talk and debate and study and task force and whatever. And one thing I think that is a clear contrast between the previous government and the Liberals is our government and Premier Ford, which actually doesn't spend a lot of time talking, actually starts to do things, building the highways, building the public transit, you know, record amounts, building housing, building the hospitals that we need. You know, we've had such a deficit. So I think this is absolutely the right way to go. I think every treasurer would cheer me on to say, you know what, you've got it right. You're building the economy. You're supporting Ontarians. You're supporting our workers. You're building the infrastructure necessary to get things done. And you know what, the flip side of getting things done is talking about it for 15 years. So I know which side I'd rather be on.
All right. Let me ask you about some other decisions that the government is making. For example, the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board has got a pretty magnificent building in downtown Toronto. You want to sell that. You want to take those workers and offer them jobs as you move the WSIB to London, Ontario. I wonder how much more decentralizing of jobs from the capital city to other cities do you have planned, and can you be as specific as possible?
You know, Steve, we got a vast portfolio of real estate right across this province. I think it's very responsible and prudent to look at some of the most expensive real estate in downtown Toronto that might have served a purpose to be there many years ago, but now with hybrid work, with technology and remote work, and you know, the skill set in London, for example, because it's an insurance company, and of course many insurance companies were founded in London, Ontario. These types of things make sense. They're good business decisions. Now, of course, we're going to be very thoughtful and deliberate as we do that, and the minister has been very clear about that, and so has the leadership team at WSIB. We're going to look at setting up new agencies that we've already established to look at various jurisdictions right across the province. So for Invest Ontario, Supply Ontario, Intellectual Property Ontario, where is the best place to house these agencies? So we're going to be very thoughtful and deliberate about optimizing our real estate portfolio, optimizing labor right across this province, making sure that people have the tools to do their job in the best place possible.
There are, of course, tens of thousands of people who work in the public service in this province, and I wanted to ask about this line in the budget and see if you could help us understand a little more about what that means. The line in the budget is, to further enable people to live and work in their communities, the Ontario Public Service is designing, testing, and implementing touchdown co-working spaces for workers in North York, Hamilton, London, Sudbury, and Ottawa, and we'll look to expand this to other regional locations to support the future of work as needed. What does that mean, Treasurer?
I think what that means, Steve, is that we've seen this right across the developed world where, you don't have to be in a fixed location. In fact, reducing commute time, sometimes it's better that someone doesn't have to travel all the way to downtown Toronto from, let's say, Pickering, where a number of people who work for the public service live and commute downtown. We have an office in Oshawa, for example. So taking that model, this is something that the public service has embraced. And with hybrid technology, with hybrid work, we have a vast array of opportunities now. And this is good for communities. This is good for the economy. This is good for workers, all types of workers right across the province. And I think this is really good for, a better standard of work right across the province.
Let me ask you about Northern Ontario, because I note you've allocated $75 million to help set the stage for Northern Rail service to Timmins. My question is, how much will that service ultimately cost when it's finished, and when will it be done?
Well, we've put the amounts in there, and Steve, the actual timing of which, I don't have those specifics right at my fingertips. But let me tell you this about the North. Whether it's Timmins doing the Northeastern Passage Rail, plus the Highway 101 in Timmins, the Highway 69 in Sudbury, opening up the Algoma Steel in Sault Ste. Marie, where they're investing in clean steel, or up in Thunder Bay, opening up the Ring of Fire just north of Thunder Bay with critical minerals. So, there's so much prosperity and opportunity for all the people of Northern Ontario. And I'm very proud to be able to support building the economy up there. Obviously, those critical minerals, Steve, we don't have to go to China or Russia to get those minerals. They're right here, particularly in Northern Ontario, particularly at a time of geopolitical risks and instability. These are good jobs. We're doing it in partnership with First Nations. That will be the critical minerals that will go into the battery manufacturing. Of course, with the big announcement in Windsor, 2,500 new jobs going in Windsor, the $5 billion investment by Stellantis and LG coming in to manufacture those batteries, which will then, of course, go into those electric vehicles, which are going to be manufactured in Ontario and Oshawa and Oakville and Windsor and Alliston and Ingersoll. These are great jobs. They're coming back to Ontario. They're helping our communities. They're helping families. So when you ask about one thing about infrastructure we're building, we're doing it right across the province. We have that plan, and boy, oh boy, I'm going to say it again, we're not only doing it, we're getting it done.
I guess the reason I'm asking is because I have seen successive governments over many years of all political stripes make promises to people in Northern Ontario that various things were going to happen, and they make for great day one announcements, but there's very little follow-up. And I guess I want to know, can we take this to the bank?
You can take these things to the bank, because that's what Doug Ford has been doing, and that's what Peter Bethlenfalvy has been doing since day one. I mentioned the Scarborough subway. We're building that. It's been talked about since the 80s. Shovels have already gone in the ground. We got funding from the federal government, the municipal government, the provincial government. If we left it up to the other folks, the Liberals in the NDP, they still be studying about it, and they still be quabbling about it, and nothing would get built. So you know what? We're getting things built. That's, as a business person, someone from the private sector, that's so important. And of course, I've been out, as you know, Steve, with every quarter finances out in the public, facing you folks and the questions, being transparent with the numbers. We'll continue to do that as we build this infrastructure, as we rebuild this economy. And let me remind your viewers that the previous Liberal government in the last mandate, they didn't go out to the public 8 times. They didn't file a press release or face you folks when they had their quarterly results. So you're getting transparency and accountability and a commitment from this government. And we hope to get reelected with a majority so we can keep moving forward.
I want to ask you about electricity subsidies, because there wasn't anything in the budget about this. I thought maybe there might be, but the province of Ontario subsidizes electricity users to the tune of multiple billions of dollars a year. And how do I put this? Minister, you and I both make 6-figure salaries, and yet the government of Ontario is sending us a check every month for $9 in order to subsidize our electricity use. Why does that make sense?
Well, you know what? As you know, Steve, the investments are failed hydro strategy from the last government, to the failed overpaying for solar and wind for power that we didn't need, has put a real burden on the backs of, at the time, the ratepayers. We've asked the taxpayers to help with that. We're reducing those energy costs. We've reduced the industrial and commercial costs by 15 to 17%. We have a plan to reduce the energy costs going forward, in part through investing in small modular reactors that will produce clean, low cost and good jobs and safe energy to power those electric vehicles. So, you know, there is a lot that we've done to bring those costs down. We're bringing costs down not just in electricity and for business and for people, but also we're bringing costs down by reimbursing the license plate stickers, by reducing gas taxes starting July 1st, by providing relief to seniors in terms of care at home and our home safety renovation tax credit. So we're bringing costs down for many Ontarians, and electricity is just part of it.
Okay, my last question for you is a bit of a personal question, but you started off your budget speech today in the legislature acknowledging that your mother, your sister were in the gallery watching you give your speech, your brother too, I think, and you said your dad wasn't there.
My wife.
Oh, forgive me, your wife, yes. You mentioned that your dad wasn't there, that he was in the hospital, and that when he got out, you two were going to have a scotch together. And I just wondered, is he okay, and are you going to get to have that scotch with him?
I'm going to definitely have that scotch with him because he's a stubborn Hungarian. So this hospitalization, he did get COVID just recently in the hospital, so he's battling through that. But I talk to him every day. He's in great spirits. He's a fighter, and yeah, I'm going to have that glass of scotch with him. Absolutely.
Glad to hear that. Minister Peter Bethlenfalvy, Finance Minister for the Province of Ontario, it's always good of you to join us on Budget Day. Many thanks.
My pleasure, Steve.
Well, it is the job of the opposition parties to hold the government to account, never more so than when a budget is introduced just days before an election call. Let's find out what they thought about today's numbers. All in the provincial capital, are they? Here's Catherine Fife, the NDP Finance and Treasury Board critic. She's the MPP for Waterloo. Mitzi Hunter is the Liberals finance critic and the MPP for Scarborough-Guildwood. And Mike Schreiner is with us. He's the leader of the Green Party of Ontario and the MPP for Guelph. Good to have you three with us for our annual little tete-a-tete here about the Ontario budget. I guess I actually don't have a firm question for each of you off the top. I'd just rather like you to react to something you just heard in the last interview that may have, what's the expression, grinded your gears or made you ticked off in a particular way. Catherine Fife, you want to start us off?
I would love to. I do want to say, though, Steve, thanks very much for having us on the show. And then also all the best to the finance minister's dad. I mean, there's politics and then there's personal. So I just want to put that out there. That said, this budget/platform today really misses the mark. And what is so shocking about it is that even on the front cover of their budget/platform, I mean, there's a large highway, there's smog. It's essentially a highway to unaffordable housing. And if there's anything that we all know, having gone through, a really challenging 4 years, but particularly with the pandemic, is that the cost of everything has gone up. So affordability is one of the #1 issues, but housing is a key component of our recovery. And there are so many people right now who find housing unaffordable. And so when the minister talks about, prioritizing Highway 413 and the Bradford bypass, he actually is essentially saying that he's going to push other transit and infrastructure projects down the line. What we struggle with on this decision essentially is that, one, it's bad for the environment. It doesn't meet the needs of the people of the province that we were elected to serve. And they talk broadly about infrastructure, but they don't talk about people. And we need to be investing in healthcare and education. People of Ontario want to see these as priority issues. They can talk about building a bed, but if there's no nurse to open that bed, then essentially it's not a bed that's open for the people of this province. And on the home care piece, I think, they've dropped a lot of money. They say that they're going to do it. However, essentially they dropped this budget platform today and then they ran out of Queen's Park. So if you're proud of a document like this, if you're proud of those investments, then you stick around and you defend them. And that's an important part of the democratic process. So they essentially did exactly what the Liberals did back in 2014, which they said that they never would do. In fact, they actually introduced legislation that said that they would always introduce a budget and then give it due course. They went back on that legislation. They had to reverse the legislation. They absolved themselves of any financial accountability with regards to that. And that does not add to the need for confidence in the finances of the province.
Mitzi Hunter, your view on what you might have heard in the last interview.
Sure. And I, too, want to just express well wishes to the minister's dad. I found out on the interview that he shares heritage with my sister-in-law, who's from Hungary. So I definitely want to wish the family well. I think that what struck me, Steve, on just listening to him and watching him in the House today, along with the Premier and their PC caucus, is how lackluster everyone is about their budget. Normally, parties are pretty proud of their budget. It sets out the vision that you have, and I just don't see one in this budget. There just is nothing new. There's nothing bold in terms of new programs that are going to lift people out of this pandemic and are going to stimulate the economic recovery that the finance minister talked about. It's really just, what they've been talking about and doing in their pre-announcements for the last few weeks. And there was really nothing new. I call it the fake budget because, who knows what's going to happen. They didn't give it an opportunity to be duly debated in the legislature, and they're just now out, in full election mode. I think what leaves people sort of scratching their head is that, where are the investments for the people of this province? We understand that they want to build highways. It's plastered all over the front cover, but this should be a budget about people. We are coming out of a pandemic. They're cutting up $1.3 billion from the education budget. And when you look at the needs in education and public education, when you look at the learning gaps that have to be addressed, when you think about, the mental health and we've just heard, the studies coming out of TDSB and others about the mental health suffering from young people. Why don't we see these investments? And not to mention healthcare for seniors and for the elderly. Our nurses are telling us that they are completely burned out. We have a nursing shortage, and this government refuses to repeal Bill 124. So they're not focused on the priorities and the things and the needs of the people of this province. And I believe that Ontarians will see that they do have a clear choice, that there is an alternative to a government that is frankly indifferent to the things that are important to them.
We should just mention, for those who don't remember, Bill 124 is that bill that puts a ceiling on public sector wage settlements at 1%, regardless of collective bargaining, et cetera, and all of your parties, I believe, have said you'd repeal it if you got in. Yeah. Okay, Mike Schreiner, the microphone is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And I, too, want to wish the minister's father well and just everybody dealing with COVID-19, sending good well wishes to everyone. Steve, this is a pro-sprawl, anti-climate budget. It's unbelievable that the government is essentially going to make life more expensive in Ontario and pave over our children's future. We're facing a climate crisis and a cost of living crisis, and the government's response is to spend a staggering $25 billion to build highways that are going to increase climate pollution, make housing less affordable for people, force people into expensive, long, soul-crushing commutes, pave over the farmland that feeds us, the wetlands that protect us from flooding. And then on top of that, they increase spending, but fail to prioritize people. $1.3 billion cut to education. We have 28,000 young people on a wait list, sometimes as long as 18 to 24 months. failed to make the investments in closing the learning gap for our children in schools or reducing the wait times for youth accessing mental health services. The list for children needing to access autism services going up and up and up. The government fails to make the investment there. As a matter of fact, the biggest cuts in this budget are in education, post-secondary education, and social services. You know, there was a rally today at Queen's Park. People with disabilities are being forced to live on $1,100 in this province right now. I mean, you can't even find an apartment for $1,100. No increase in the budget to support the most vulnerable. And finally, you can build all the hospitals you want, but if you don't invest in the frontline workers who staff those hospitals, who staff long-term care homes, the very people who put themselves at risk caring for our loved ones throughout this pandemic, and to continue to freeze their wages and to not provide the funding that those workers need to have a decent quality of life, to have the fair wages, to be treated like the heroes that they are, to say we're going to expand childcare, make it more available, but not pay early childhood educators a fair wage. I mean, this budget falls short on so many levels because it fails to invest in people. It fails to address the real affordability concerns people have, especially when it comes to housing. And it fails to address the climate crisis.
I think you're all three united in your distaste for the building of the new 413 highway that's proposed. And Catherine, you did mention that you know, the cover of the budget document was a smoggy picture of a highway in action. And so let me follow up with my next round of questioning on that. Yes, they want to spend $25 billion on highways, but they also have $62 billion earmarked for public transit. Does that suggest to you that maybe your criticisms on highways are a little unfair because they do have lots of money in there for transit as well? Catherine, why don't you start us off?
No, I mean, it's complete, like, this is a fair criticism to be offering up as opposition parties, primarily because the 413 was initially estimated to cost $10.6 billion. The research and the study on this highway has proven that it's not going to address gridlock. The cost could be well above the $10 billion. And that means that it pushes down the public transit projects that are so valuable, like Brampton LRT, for instance. Build the transit where the people are. The ridership there is almost 70%. They need options. They don't have access to a car. They have the highest auto insurance rates in the country. So when this government, you know, looks at a project like the Highway 413, and you know, we could do a whole show actually on Highway 413 based on who's going to benefit the most from that infrastructure project. This is definitely concerning. This is a government that refuses to listen to the lived experiences of people in Ontario. The fact that autism, for instance, is not even mentioned in the budget when there are 50,000 children on a wait list is indicative of how disconnected and out of touch this government is. And when I did have the opportunity to respond to the budget today, I mean, they were obviously not happy that we did respond because we had to slide in, you know, 5 minutes because we're not going to get a chance to debate this budget because it is a piece of fiction. If the due process doesn't happen and we can't determine how 413 and the Bradford bypass are going to impact critical infrastructure projects like the Ottawa LRT and the Brampton LRT, then they are denying us an opportunity to follow through on our responsibilities. And so the criticism is well-founded, and I'm surprised that they've left themselves so open to it, quite honestly.
Mitzi Hunter, maybe you could pick up the story there. If, in fact, it is $10 billion for the 413 highway, and it probably will be more, if you guys are against doing that, what would you rather see that money go towards?
So I will answer that. I do want to say another sort of stunning thing from the minister's pre-interview is that the budget is not fully costed. He doesn't necessarily know what it's going to cost to build those rails to Timmins. Neither do they have the full cost in place for the Highway 413, which, you know, they're putting that on the cover of their budget. And so highways are mentioned 151 times in this budget. Women are mentioned 8 times. And so you really see where the headspace is at for this government. And, you know, what the Ontario Liberals have said is that we would cancel Highway 413 that paves over farmland and greenbelt and watershed communities, and instead would invest in public education, because we believe that that is aligned with the priorities of the people of this province and, frankly, the needs of the province to set us up for a brighter future. And that's what would be our focus, making class sizes smaller, hiring 16,000 new teachers and education workers, and making sure that the supports are in place for our public education system.
All right, Mike Schreiner, let me repeat those numbers. They do acknowledge $25 billion for highway construction and repaving, renovation, and so on. But $62 billion is earmarked for public transit. Now, you're a public transit guy. You got to like those numbers, don't you?
Well, I absolutely support more investment in public transit, but the challenge is that the government hasn't costed out what their highway projects are actually going to cost. So likely the $25 billion figure is much lower than the amount of money they're likely going to spend on particularly Highway 413, which estimates are $10 to $12 billion. The Bradford Bypass, Holland Marsh Highway, anywhere between 1.5 to 2.6 billion, just for those two alone. And none of that is detailed out in the budget. So how can the government, one, call themselves fiscally responsible if they actually don't even know how much these highways are going to cost? And then on top of that, let's be honest with people. This is going to make your life more expensive. Nobody wants to have to commute 2 hours to find a place to live, to, you know, have less time with your family. People want to live close to where they work. They want affordable housing built in communities they can live, work, play, and shop locally. There is nothing in this budget about building housing. I mean, at one time, the government would support nonprofit and co-op and purpose-built rental housing and build the housing that people could afford in the community they want. You know, the government could have gone after speculation with the, multiple home speculation tax, for example, to drive the large corporation and wealthy speculators out of the housing market. They failed to do that. So I have a feeling that this budget is actually, particularly when it comes to highways, is going to be more expensive than what's outlined in the budget, and it's absolutely going to make people's lives less affordable. Let's
bring it, Catherine, down to brass tacks here. Can you tell me one thing in the budget you would not have done if you were in Peter Bethlenfalvy's shoes and you would have taken the money he spent on the thing you don't like, and instead you would spend it on what?
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear. One of the biggest items is the $10+ billion for Highway 413. We would use that money to build intensification around housing. We're the only party that is promising, rent geared to income, social housing, which is desperately needed in communities. We would have reinvested that money in home care, because there are people right now in hospital beds who cannot access home care. So they're taking up beds, but it's a quality of life issue. They want to be in their homes. And so we're the one party that actually has a plan around a publicly funded home care that is affordable and that is quality and is respectful of the people that work in that field. So really it is about priorities. The long-term care piece, this government really essentially has doubled down on the privatization that the Liberals started on the long-term care file. And that has to be said. So long-term care, smaller homes in communities offering quality care, this is a good investment for an aging population that we can no longer ignore. The home care piece, and of course, always public education. The $1.3 billion cut to public education is absolutely shocking. And as someone who represents a riding that has two great universities, Laurier and University of Waterloo, and of course, Conestoga College, seeing an almost $700 million cut from that really is, it demonstrates that this government doesn't understand that the new economy incorporates green initiatives, and that there's great opportunity there to create good jobs for everyone. And that is where we are focused on, aside from the affordability piece, which should be front and center for every party.
All right, Mitzi Hunter, my question for you is, and people may not remember this, but it was actually the Liberal Party that last presented a balanced budget in the province of Ontario. You didn't balance too many of them, but the last one that did do a balance was the Liberal government. And I wonder whether you are at all perturbed that the Financial Accountability Officer says if they didn't go on on a big-time spending spree. They could have balanced the budget next year. Instead, the budget won't be balanced until 2028. Is that a problem for you?
It is a problem for me, Steve, and it certainly kicks it way out past a second mandate that they're seeking. And you know, what leaves me perplexed is what are they focused on? What are they spending that is making fundamental investments in this province? And, you know, you talk about affordable housing, and there's no affordable housing program for young people to get them into the housing market. There's no affordable rental housing program. There's just really no vision on one of the biggest issues that faces young people and others in our province. You know, definitely making sure that we really focus on the future, and that includes our seniors and our elders, and how our province is aging, and are we ready for that? You know, the plan that we're putting forward as Ontario Liberals puts actually twice as much money invested in a revolution of elder care in this province than does the NDP, because we know that we need to do better by our seniors and by our elders, and whether that's the type of housing that they live in or the people who support them so that they can age at home. You know, we are going to make the base rate for personal support workers $25 an hour, because we want to attract and retain people in that hands-on healthcare sector that we know suffered so much during the pandemic. And so, you know, our focus is going to be about putting forward realistic plans and making sure that we implement those plans so that the people of this province can really see value from what is being invested. I think that there is a lot of money being spent under the Ford government's budget, but it's not reaching real people. You know, it's maybe going to developers and going to for-profit.
Forgive me, Mitzi, I'm going to jump in for a second because I'm down to my last minute and a half here, and I've got to give Mike Schreiner a chance to comment on whether or not he's perturbed that the budget will not be balanced according to this budget until the year 2028.
Well, see, what I'm perturbed about is this budget failed to learn the lessons of the pandemic. You know, when you're supposed to shelter at home, you need to have a home that you can afford to shelter in. This budget doesn't invest in affordable housing. Our long-term care sector, we have to make sure we never have our elders go through what they went through during the pandemic, which is why we need to invest in public long-term health care. We need to address the mental health shadow pandemic that's happening, which is why I'm opposed to these like election gimmicks, like license plate stickers that would have money that could go into making mental health services available under OHIP. The government has failed to learn the lessons of our children being locked out of their schools for so long and facing a learning gap. You know, they shouldn't be cutting $1.3 billion from education. They should be increasing the education budget to close the learning gap that our children have faced over the last couple of years. Over and over again, this government has failed to learn the lessons of the pandemic, make the investments we need in the caring economy, and then at the same time prepare us for the climate emergency that we're facing and setting up Ontario's economy to be successful in the new climate economy, where that's where you're seeing most of the job and economic growth. And this budget it fails to even really mention climate change. As a matter of fact, most of the policies in it is actually going to make the climate worse and set Ontario backwards when it comes to being successful in the new climate economy.
You came right to time. Forgive me, I got no time left, and Mike Schreiner went right to time. This will be the last time I see you three until the election's called, so good luck out there on the hustings to you and to Minister Bethlenfalvy as well, and thanks for doing TVO with us tonight.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Take care.
Assuming it will set the tone for what we'll all see out on the hustings beginning next week, let's hear from some members of the Fourth Estate on what they took from Budget 2022. From Queen's Park, Alison Smith, founder and publisher of Queen's Park Today and co-host of the Canada Land podcast, Wag the Dug. And in Leaside, in the provincial capital, there's Matt Gurney, columnist for the National Post, The Line, and a contributor to our own website, tvo.org. And it's great to see you two again. I want you two to get your creative hats on here, because Peter Bethlenfalvy has called this budget Ontario's plan to build. But I want to put you two in charge now of giving your own title to what you'd call this thing. Okay, Alison, start us off. You'd call it what?
I mean, I'd call this budget a plan to win votes by any means necessary. We've already seen the PCs, use legislation to give themselves an advantage when it comes to fundraising, kind of to stifle critics leading up to the election by changing third-party advertising rules. And now it kind of seems like any fiscal bona fides they've had are out the window with this rising deficit, post COVID. And I think a lot of fiscal hawks might be asking for what? Why is the deficit going up again this year?
All interesting points which we'll come back
campaign.
to. Right, I hear you. Okay, Matt, Peter Bethlenfalvy's calling it Ontario's plan to build. Matt Gurney's calling it what?
Highways. One word answer. Looking through this budget, it's highways. It's highways. It's highways. I was taking notes as I was reading through it. $150 billion in capital spending, and it's basically highways and other key infrastructure. And I actually look what the capital spending on. Not much of it's going to highways. I mean, we're spending almost like 2.5 times on transit what we're spending on highways. We're spending double on new hospital construction that we're spending on highways. But highways are what get the key billing in that part of the speech. Look, this is politics. We got an election coming up. This is obviously a signal to the Premier's key voters that he's a guy who likes to get in his car and drive on highways and drive across bridges, and we're going to make new bridges, and we're going to rehabilitate other bridges for highways. Once I noticed it in the budget, and I just kept reading and reading and reading, I just found myself laughing at how many times it's just highways, even though it's a tiny percent of the actual capital spending.
That is true, Matt. But then, Allison, if you look at the numbers, there's still billions of dollars in here for urban transit. So it's not as if the Premier is saying, yeah, I'm with the highway people who like to get in their cars, but forget about the cities. There's stuff in there for cities too, isn't there?
There's stuff in there for cities, although one thing I would note is that the budget looks back at last year's spending as well as looks forward. And we did see that, I believe, $150 million from the Ministry of Transportation that was supposed to go to Metrolinx for transit didn't get spent. And the reason they gave is ridership numbers. So I found that a bit odd. But when it comes to transit, I think what the PCs know is the PCs are good at polling, right? If they've got anything down, it's that. And highways must be, what polls well. And that's why it's on the cover of the book. It's all over the pages. And it's what we're going to be hearing a lot about over the campaign.
Matt, you have been known to enjoy the odd conservative idea along the way. And I wonder if you think this is a particularly conservative budget from what is supposed to be a conservative government.
There was one point in the budget that I had to laugh at. And first of all, to answer your question, no, it's not a particularly conservative budget. The point's already made. It's a pre-election budget, right? Like, this is go out and try to win as many people over as possible. So I'm reading the budget. I'm going through it page after page. I'm jotting down notes. The government will support this. The government will help develop this. The government will build resiliency in that. And there's just one of those little text boxes they put in the middle of it because they really want it to pop out. It's against a darker background. And it's like, the government will work to cut red tape. And it just made me laugh because, look, I'm all in favor of cutting red tape. Let's streamline processes. Let's make government efficient. But when you throw dozens and dozens of pages at me, that is the expansion of the government. And then you're like, and we're going to cut some red tape. You can see there's still some sort of echoes of the old Doug Ford in there, but it's buried under a whole lot of, well, as we've said, $60 billion for transit, small business tax credits, income tax cuts, I should say, for lower income Ontarians, wage supports, all this stuff. It's a budget. It's a pre-election budget. And as the government has now clarified, this is the budget they intend to run on. Is it a conservative budget? No, we haven't seen a conservative budget from this government in the last 3 years.
I think it's interesting that you said the government has clarified that this is the budget they intend to run on. And Allison, I'll pick up the story there with you because Peter Bethlenfalvy was asked numerous times at his briefing today, if you win the election, do you bring this exact budget back and take it to the people and implement it? And he didn't answer the question numerous times. So where are we on that in fact?
Yeah, I found that very odd, a very odd reaction from Minister Bethlenfalvy, who's usually a very good communicator within the PC's cabinet. But for whatever reason, he didn't seem to be willing to be straight on that, or he didn't know that was the case, which again is odd because the whole point, as far as everybody that's been watching this happen at Queen's Park assumed, was the point was putting off the budget by a month, which is why it's coming out today, was so that it would come out right before the campaign. Later after the embargo lifted and a bunch of journalists started tweeting about the fact that Bethlenfalvy had been so unclear, his office was quick to swoop in and say, no, this is the budget we're going to run on. So I don't know. I consider that a pretty big communications gaffe that really just didn't need to happen. But as it stands, yes, Ontarians can be convinced that if they re-elect the PCs on June 2nd, this document will be right back in the hands of journalists and tabled on the clerk's table, and a corresponding legislation that got tabled today, which will never be debated nor passed, will be back in the chamber, come September, whenever a new PC government recalls the House, should there be another PC government.
Well, allegedly the House is supposed to come back September 12th if this party is reelected. But Matt, I wonder if there's a part of you that would say, in fairness, that's a bit of a tough question for him to answer, because who knows, after the next election, if the Conservatives win, if they come back into power, he may not be the next finance minister. Who knows? So is it really for him to say, yes, every comma, period, number, etc., will be back in the fall if we are too?
Oh, you know what, Steve, I mean, I'm even more ruthless than you are about this. I mean, who among us has lived through the last 26 months and has any faith whatsoever that any prediction we might make is valid beyond about 72 hours? Like, I don't know. 2 months ago, 2 months and a week ago, there wasn't a land war in Europe. 6 months ago, we were still being told that any inflation would be brief and transitory. 3 years ago, no one had heard of COVID-19. So it's all well and good for the government to have its intention to come back and, if reelected, run on this government, but God only knows what else is going to happen between now and September. I was saying just a couple of days ago, this reminded me of Ontario politics a little bit before the Drummond Report came out, when all the parties were campaigning on, hey, this is what we're going to do, and these are our fiscal projections, and everyone outside of the actual political apparatus is like, well, what about the report that's coming out? Isn't it going to change everything? It's like, well, that report's not out yet, so we're just going to pretend we don't have to worry about it. This is a placeholder election. We have no idea what's going to happen over the next few months. Inflation in particular, every number in this budget I'm reading, I'm just kind of wondering, we'll see what inflation does to that if it's not tamed in the next little while. So the government may intend to run on this, but let's see where they stand a week, a month, 3 months from now.
Well, one of the numbers that caught my eye in this budget was the number 268, which is the number of pages it has, which makes it a fairly lengthy document. And Allison, I'll tell you, I can't recall a budget in the past, and I may have seen maybe 40 of them, that was so long and yet re-announced so many things that we had already heard over the previous 12 months. Which makes me ask you, was there anything in particular in this budget that you found actually new and surprising? Because much of it was a re-announced rehash of things they've announced 100 times.
Yeah, absolutely. For people that follow what cabinet ministers have been talking about every day for the past few months, we've seen almost every word of this budget already, thrown out through press releases and trotted around the province. What is new? There is a home care credit for seniors who want to stay at home so they can purchase medical equipment. There is a tax break for very low income people. There's new information, at least. Something I learned from this that I think was fascinating was looking at the projections the province has for housing starts, which is the term for new houses that are built every year. The PCs for, they didn't really have to give a reason for this. It's just a line and a chart. but the number of housing starts is actually projected to go down from 2011 and not get even back up to the heights that it's been in the past few years or the last year, which is really shocking and surprising to me as a Queen's Park follower, because the PCs have really made housing a thing that they talk about all the time, and their main solution to the housing crisis has been to build more. Their housing task force says we need 1.5 million houses, and looking at this in the next 3 or 4 years, we might get 200,000 by the looks of the numbers they're giving. So I find that fascinating and was not anything I was expecting to see today.
How about you, Matt? Anything unexpected in there for you?
I wouldn't say unexpected. I think the budget basically is a concise, I mean, even at 268 pages, it's something of a summary of everything we've been hearing for months. Not a ton of surprises, but I agree with Allison. It is sometimes interesting to see what happens when you take, 50 different photo op announcements all across the province and you actually boil it down into a couple of paragraphs of here is what we're going to do, here's what we're going to spend on it, here's what we're going to be accomplishing. I was looking over, for instance, the section on long-term care, accelerating the construction of long-term care homes, pilot projects to get these things built much faster. Apparently, just over 30,000 beds, new beds, plus tens of thousands of revamped beds in the system already coming out, which is all well and good. But the problem, of course, is that the wait list is also tens of thousands of people long. And until we fix the long-term care system, we won't really be able to fix the hospital system. So I look at things like this and I'm thinking, oh, okay, here we have some tangible goals, 30,000 new long-term care beds, 3,000 new acute care beds. This is all great. Where are we going to get the people from? Where are we going to build the facilities? How long is it going to take? It is useful to get it all distilled into one place in one package. But in terms of new surprises, no, I will continue reading it over as time goes on. But the one thing I will say, Steve, even with 268 pages, if you just skip over all the parts that are the government congratulating themselves on all their excellent work, is maybe about actually 100 pages left.
Well, there is some of that. I got to give you that. That's for sure. Allison, let me try this. Budgets are really good documents to determine what government's priorities are, because they either spend lots of money on those things or they mention them a lot. What's missing in this budget, in your view, because it wasn't mentioned or it's not being focused on in terms of financial commitment?
Well, what struck me actually from Minister Bethlenfalvy's speech is that he only used the word pandemic 2 times in the whole speech, which was a pretty lengthy speech. If you guys are watching, it was upwards of 40 minutes. And I took a look back at last year's speech that he gave. This is his second budget as finance minister. And in that one, I mean, the whole budget or the whole speech was talking about vaccines. It was talking about new money for COVID testing, for contact tracing, for business supports. And to me, it was, I think people might have something to complain about that this budget isn't as pandemic focused as it could be. But for me, it kind of felt like a breath of fresh air after looking at, what the government was focusing and thinking about so much, 13 months ago and how far we've came with that. Actually felt kind of nice that we weren't reading a document filled with the word COVID right now.
Well, Matt, let me get your take on that. COVID is very much absent in this budget document. The word autism, I don't think, is mentioned at all. And that's an issue that has bedeviled so many governments over the last 15 years. The environment doesn't come up a lot in this budget. What do you infer from the lack of those 3 things in this document?
I mean, nothing that we haven't generally touched on already, right? This is an election document and the government wants to put its best feet forward. I mean, I think all of us would have agreed, and I've already mentioned in some of my columns right here at TVO, that the government is not going to fight this election or fight for its own re-election on the basis of its COVID performance. It's just not. It's too vulnerable on that. And maybe the only lucky break it's catching on that front is that the opposition parties don't seem to really want to talk about it all that much either. I mean, I've been curious to see, we're all talking about healthcare, we're talking about long-term care, things like that. I mean, weaknesses in the system that were exposed by the pandemic. But in terms of the actual daily management of COVID-19, I don't think anyone really wants to talk about this. So whether it's autism or the environment, or as Allison and you have noted, whether it's the pandemic, they don't want to talk about it. They want to talk about highways. They want to talk about the new hospitals they're going to be building. They want to talk about opening up the Ring of Fire and building out infrastructure. These are the things they think are going to work for them here. So I think you're absolutely right in terms of both where the money is and also where the speech dwelled. And I did listen to it. And yes, it was indeed a long speech. You see the government signaling where it thinks it is strong, or at least what it would like to spend the next 2 months talking about, no matter what some other people might wish it'd be talking about during that time. And I think autism is a great example of that.
Well, you two are two of the sharpest Queen's Park observers I know, so I'm glad we were able to get both of you on our program tonight. Alison Smith, Queen's Park Today, Matt Gurney, co-founder and editor of The Line. Also, you'll read them on tvo.org. Thanks so much, you two.
Thank you.
Good night.
And that is the agenda for Thursday, April 28th, 2022, our budget special. For more of TVO's Budget 2022 coverage, you can always check out our website, tvo.org, which tonight includes columns from yours truly and my On Poly podcast co-host, John Michael McGrath. Now, as for tomorrow, Nam Kiwanuka will learn why some Northern Ontario communities want a new deal to help pay for the cost of policing. Hope you'll join her for that. I'm Steve Paikin. Thanks for watching TVO, for joining us online at tvo.org. And Nam, we'll see you here tomorrow.